Breaking news. Mekelle and its surroundings bombarded by airstrikes, just a week after the Ethiopian government launched a major offensive to retake Tigray. Good evening. I'm Salam Burhana from Tigray Mass Media Agency with today's news. Earlier today, Tigray's capital, Mekelle, was bombarded by 2 airstrikes during Mawlid festivities. The first hit a village in the outskirts of Mekelle that killed 3 civilians, including children, and injured 1. The second landed in a market near Planet Hotel, injuring 6 civilians. The first strike landed in the vicinity of Mesobo Cement Factory, one of the largest cement factories in the country, creating thousands of job opportunities for residents of the city and its surroundings. The airstrike left 3 dead and 1 wounded. The second airstrike hit near Addi Haqi's open market, injuring 6 with no confirmed deaths so far. The airstrike is just one of many indiscriminate attacks on the capital and has caused the largest number of casualties since the Togoga massacre that left many dead.
Abbo. Tai kam تفطر هنا برنا دخله. Tai تفطر.
ما أنا ببرها أنا فرخنيره.
الشيء.
لا عسيد ما تجي. هذا من قد نسوق حولا وتو نعصر بتام نسوق حولا. أنا خلا مثلا ما رتاعي يتاعي هم ذيك تلتبه هم كل يوم باري ناي 15 متر تفانات دوري و هر دفن نبيل نتاع الراس اللي دفن أفتح الراس مريتي ومالتي قريم مالتي هر زندات لي بارعني تقول وعلم هر دفن مسبلني قري ويوم نير فلان هون زون وعلم زي ودي مالتي يومنا هر حيهم نمطيو تقول وفلت لوموت نير مالتي انسس على 3 نير الموتى مالتي
شم كامل؟ تابور أها جمع أبي نير كذا أداga عد حكي فتمت خلا تقولنا تتذكروا ده مش على بيها تذكروا ها حدا ماي حدا ناب أسفلتي وديقون أب حمد
توقع من مسؤول
أو إمرجنسي
كشوعة بالعلة
كشوعة
إيش تسأل على ودي شوعة شو من عمت عبايلا نفس على سيكلة وقت من السي أو أدم بقمتي على سيكلة بس حد بتمنى لو إحنا زي أمرنا يوم يلا لين نقول مسؤول تلوي تمرنا يوم زي يوم
استغنى تحكمي تقلتي حجي مستي لما أنتي ناي أو دعمتون مستي مخاني ناي أسلام كلايكات عم نصح زي قايد حرقة دوت صح لأنه ما خمي تقلتي أسكان
هاي مشكلة ناي جنكتي ما تفتبر هاي سعر له الصوز مسيو مثل نزهل زي قام نوقع ما نمتصر قلعة حسوا لي خالنا قريب ولا كاس أيخوني ما نستلار أم نزهل زي قام ما نمتر قلعس بس لقات أم هاي نقر أفتبر على اللوجوات هاي ودس الناس ما نحمو ما نحتقول زوجس بس أم قلعة بس هم عين تطلع سوي حسب 5 ساعات مالته بعد 3 عام 4 عام قلعة سام زعينة سرح تسرحي خسيت تقوم متوقع
The government of Tigray has issued a statement condemning the airstrike, calling it a desperate move by the Ethiopian government and an extension of its genocidal mission. The statement reiterated the government's continued commitment to a peaceful resolution to the conflict, in the face of Abiy Ahmed's blatant disregard for international norms and standards, and calls on the international community to take appropriate measures and stand with the people of Tigray to bring the genocidal project to an end. Our reporters had a brief stay with legal experts from Tigray Institute of Policy Studies, explaining that the international community has to go further than rhetorical condemnation, as these acts clearly constitute a violation of international norms and standards.
First of all, my heartfelt, my deep condolences to the victims' families. I know that they will be stronger. I know that they will fight for their rights, and this will never kneel them before the fascists. But my take on today's bombardment is related to the war that have been waged on Tigray throughout the last year. It's apparently, it's very clear. It's for everyone to see that this is a genocidal war. It does never discriminate civilians from military targets. It does never target even any military installations or anything in the city. It was simply bombarding civilians who were really busy doing whatever they could do in a very busy Monday, clear sunlight market. So I see it as a continuation, as a policy of the fascists from all corners to wipe out Tigrayans, and it's just part of it, part of what they have been doing throughout the last year, and this year too.
Today's airstrike, I have heard it when I was in my office, and I immediately went out, and I have even tried to record it. So yeah, it is not expected, because from the very beginning, they have been targeting civilians. I'm not surprised, but at this time, at least we expected them to at least understand the situation and at least stop killing civilians. So I was shocked. It was in the middle of the city, and today is Monday, and people's market, a lot of crowd there, and it is deliberate targeting the civilians, and it really shocks me how these mad leaders are behaving towards the people of Tigray.
We know where the war is. It's deep into the Amhara territory. There is no war here in the city of Mekelle, nor in the village, in the outskirts of the city of Mekelle. So I don't see any military gain by bombarding the village in the outskirts of Mekelle, or an open market in the middle of the city of Mekelle. There is no military target at all. There was no military movement at all. There was no war at all. So there is nothing that could be called a military target, or there is nothing that could be gained by bombarding an open air market or just a village in the outskirts of the city of Mekelle. So there is no military gain for sure. But do they care? Do you think they do care? They don't. What they do care is to annihilate the Tigrayans, to wipe them out from the map of the earth. They have declared this several times. They have made this clear through their mouthpieces, including the one at the top, at the helm of this fascist regime, or by the another similar regime to our north. So they have been very clear on what they want, and they have never been selective on the tools that they use. And this has been clear for everybody to see, for us Tagaru and for everybody on earth, all human beings. So there is no military gain, nor any strategic gain for that matter. It is simply, again, a continuation of their genocidal mission.
There is no gain by targeting civilians, and I think this is what you are asking is in a normal circumstance. We are not in a normal circumstance. These leaders are mad, and they are targeting Tigrayans. So Tigrayans are like military installations. So they don't distinguish between a military target and a civilian as far as Tigrayans are concerned. So Tigrayans have been targets like military targets from day one. So we cannot talk of military and civilian targets. Even when they physically find the Tigrayan civilians, they were killing them. It is obvious the whole world. So it is not a normal circumstance. You find it in rational leaders conducting war. This is a genocidal war. So in a genocidal war, you don't expect these genociders to distinguish between military and civilian targets. Their targets is the civilians. The genocide means, I mean, they are killing the people. So you don't expect them to target the military installation or military targets in this situation.
Because our world knows worse since long ago. There is very well established legal norms. There are Geneva Conventions. There are also many other legal instruments in this regard. I'm not going into these details, but it's very clear that you can't, legally speaking, target civilians, let alone targeting civilians, even for combatants. Once they are not capable of waging war, they have rights. And these rights are mentioned in the Geneva Convention and so on. But again, fascists never discriminate between a civilian, a combatant, a military target, a civilian target. That's not in their equation. That's none of their business. So that's what we saw today. So it's absolutely illegal according to international law. It's absolutely illegal according to the Ethiopian, if there are any Ethiopian legal norms that this region respects anymore, they are illegal from all corners, from all directions, from moral, legal, international law, domestic law, Ethiopia's constitution, and so on. So it's there is no question about this. It's absolutely illegal. There is also accountability for this. There is what we call the Rome Statute, according to which the International Criminal Court is constituted. So, of course, it exercises a complementary jurisdiction, meaning when the suspected criminals are not held accountable in the domestic courts, the ICC steps in. So I think hopefully we will be able to make these people, to hold these people accountable. But in case they run away because they are able to do so and their intentions were not hidden anymore, there is also international law, the International Criminal Court, and the Rome Statute. So from every corner, these people should be held accountable, not only for what they committed today, but for all sorts of crimes that they have been waging on the people of Tigray. But hopefully, we may even also to hold them accountable even locally. That's my wish.
Normally, in the first place, governments cannot attack civilians. There are international norms. This is against international humanitarian law. The world has already have laws. Even war has law, its own law. So it is against international law. But what is happening in this war is, from the very beginning, it is the violation of all international standards, international norms. So we cannot be surprised when today Mekelle is attacked. They have been attacking civilians all over Tigray, not only in Tigray, even in other parts of Ethiopia, they have been attacking Tigrayans. So it is totally violation of international law. So Abiy, Isaias Afwerki, and the Amhara chauvinists are violating international law. And when it comes to the international community, with the international community asking Abiy Ahmed to stop the war and make peace, he is saying this is violation of sovereignty. And Abiy Ahmed does not understand sovereignty does not exist alone. Sovereignty includes people. Without people, there is no sovereignty. But it does not consider Tigrayan people as his own people. That's the problem.
Apparently, they are being defeated in a war that they themselves declared on the people of Tigray, a genocidal war, as we repeatedly say, and as the truth on the ground tells everyone who can see the truth and the facts for themselves or himself, herself. But the term retaliation applies only to reasonable people, to people who can discriminate military targets from civilian targets and vice versa. But these people are simply doing whatever they could do to make sure that their devilish intention is realized on the territories, on the land of Tigray. So I don't think we can even speak of retaliating for whatever military defeats that you may sustain on the civilian. That's abnormal, you know. Retaliation has certain characteristics or requirements. For example, if if they sustain military blows, then they should look for another similar military target, and then if they attack such a target, then we may talk about retaliation and so on. But in this case, it's not military target. There is no proportionality. There is nothing that we can talk about retaliation in this case. I think it's simply a continuation of their genocidal war again.
From the very beginning, they have been defeated, and they started by attacking people. It is not now new, but it looks like that these days they have been propagating, like we can control Mekelle within a few days, and let alone controlling Mekelle, they couldn't even defend their lines, and our forces are advancing continuously and victoriously, and the whole world knows the Tigrayans have been determined to fight for their cause, and no force is standing before them. So for this defeat, I think it looks like that they are attacking, at least they try to accomplish their genocidal act by air bombardment, because they know that we are defenseless, civilians are defenseless. And rather than attacking the Tigrayan forces who are attacking them in the front, they come back just by flight and attacking civilians. And I think this is not new. This is a good indication that our enemies are losing ground. When our enemies lose ground, they are always attacking civilians. Their fathers have been doing that, and they are doing the same thing. History is repeating itself.
And now for news from Tigray Armed Forces. The Ethiopian forces deployed 28 infantry divisions, 3 mechanized, 7 Republican Guards, and 3 brigade commandos, and launched what it called a final offensive on Tigray's armed forces in an attempt to retake Tigray. Tigray's armed forces were able to take a successful counterattack on all fronts, overwhelming 71,225 enemy combatants and capturing thousands of weaponries. In a recent statement, the government of Tigray expressed its commitment to negotiate and emphasized that it doesn't consider war as a legitimate means for ending this conflict, but that its armed forces will defend against adversaries' coordinated and prolonged offensive to ensure the security and well-being of the people of Tigray. That wraps up our news for the evening. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.